Right now, 51% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Not people in poverty, not people who just lost their jobs, people who are employed, working, earning a regular income, and still one bad week away from a crisis. Here is what makes that number stranger. The United States is, by most measures, the wealthiest country in the history of civilization. So what is going on? The answer is not that people are lazy or reckless. The real answer is that most of us were never taught how money actually works. Nobody sat us down and explained budgets, compound interest, or why ignoring your employer's 401k match is essentially turning down free money. We learned history, trigonometry, maybe a little biology, but the thing that would determine the quality of our lives for the next 50 years, that was left for us to figure out on our own. This video is the class you never got. We are going to cover everything: budgeting, emergency funds, debt, saving, investing, and the wealth-building habits that actually move the needle. This is not a collection of tips. This is a complete system built from the ground up, designed to take you from wherever you are right now to a place where money works for you, not the other way around. Stay until the end because the last section is where everything else clicks into place. Why most people stay broke. Before we get into the tactics, we need to talk about something most personal finance content skips entirely. According to a 2025 Ramsey Solutions study, about 35% of Americans say they feel trapped in a cycle of debt, not temporarily behind, trapped. And 2 in 3 Americans, according to a credible survey, say they do not believe they will ever save enough to feel financially secure. That is not a spending problem. That is a system problem. Here's how the system works against you. There are entire industries, credit card companies, payday lenders, subscription services, fast fashion retailers, whose entire business model depends on you not thinking too carefully about your money. Every swipe, every buy now, pay later, every 0% intro rate that flips to 25% after 12 months, these are not accidents. They're products engineered to keep money moving away from you. The good news is that once you see the system clearly, you can stop playing by its rules. And it starts with one simple thing: knowing exactly where your money goes. Your budget is not a punishment. The word budget carries this reputation of misery and restriction, like a financial diet you're always failing. That framing is wrong. A budget is not a cage, it's a map. It tells you where you are, and it lets you decide where you want to go. The most practical framework for someone just starting out is the 50-30-20 rule. 50% of your take-home income goes toward needs: rent, groceries, utilities, transportation, minimum debt payments. 30% goes toward wants: dining out, entertainment, hobbies, the things that make life enjoyable. And 20% goes towards savings and extra debt repayment. Now, a lot of people see that 20% and immediately think it's not possible right now. That's okay. The framework is a target, not a punishment. Even starting with 5% or 10% changes the trajectory of your financial life. There's one rule within budgeting that matters more than any percentage, though. Pay yourself first. Most people save whatever is left over after they spend. Pay yourself first flips that. The moment your paycheck hits, a fixed amount moves automatically into savings or investments before you pay bills, before you buy anything. You live on what remains. This one behavioral shift is the single biggest predictor of long-term financial health. Not income, not investment strategy, behavior. A practical next step: open a separate savings account at a different bank than your checking account. Make it slightly inconvenient to move money back. Then automate a transfer the day after your paycheck arrives. Out of sight, out of spending reach. The emergency fund. Before you invest a single dollar in the stock market, before you start aggressively paying off debt, before almost anything else, you need an emergency fund. Here's why this matters right now. A 2025 survey by Empower found that 32% of Americans have zero emergency savings. None. And the median emergency savings balance in the United States is $600, not $6,000, $600. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve reports that 37% of adults say they could not cover an unexpected expense of even $400 using cash or savings alone. A car repair, a medical copay, a broken appliance. These are not rare disasters, they're just life. And without a financial cushion, every one of those moments turns into credit card debt, which turns into months of high interest payments, which turns into the exact cycle of debt we talked about earlier. The standard recommendation from most financial planners is 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses, held in a high-yield savings account, not a checking account, not a standard savings account earning 0.4% a year. As of early 2026, many high-yield savings accounts are offering annual yields in the range of 4%, which is meaningful when your balance starts to grow. If building 3 to 6 months feels overwhelming, start with one goal: $1,000. Just get to $1,000. That single number covers a huge percentage of real-world emergencies, and it gives you something even more valuable than money. It gives you a sense that you are no longer completely vulnerable. Debt, the most expensive thing you own. Let's talk about what debt is actually costing you. The average American credit card balance is $6,523 as of the third quarter of 2025, according to TransUnion. The average credit card interest rate, according to the Federal Reserve, is just under 21% APR. Here's what that means in practical terms. If you have a $6,523 balance and you make only the minimum payment each month, you'll be in debt for over 14 years and pay approximately $6,491 in interest alone. You'll essentially pay for the same balance twice. Credit card debt is not normal, even though it increasingly feels that way. Bankrate found that 47% of credit card holders are currently carrying a balance, and 61% of those people have been in debt for at least a year. So, how do you get out? There are two proven methods, and both work. The question is what you're optimizing for. The avalanche method targets your highest interest debt first. You make minimum payments on everything and throw every extra dollar at the account with the highest rate. Mathematically, this saves the most money. The snowball method targets your smallest balance first. You pay it off, feel the win, and build momentum toward the next one. Psychologically, this works better for a lot of people. Neither is wrong. The one you'll actually stick with is the right one. One more thing worth saying here. Not all debt is the same. A 3% mortgage on an appreciating asset is fundamentally different from a 25% credit card balance on groceries. The goal is not to be debt-free at all costs. The goal is to eliminate high-interest consumer debt that's draining your wealth, while using low-cost leverage strategically when it makes sense. Quick pause here. If you're finding this useful, hit the subscribe button below. This channel is dedicated to breaking down personal finance in a way that actually makes sense. New videos go up regularly, and we're just getting started. Now, back to it.
Saving, the habit that builds the foundation. There is a phrase that gets used a lot in personal finance. It is not about how much you make, it is about how much you keep. That is mostly true. The personal savings rate in the United States, meaning personal savings as a percentage of disposable income, was sitting at just 4.4% as of July 2025, according to Bureau of Labor Statistics data. 4.4%. For most households, that's a thin margin between stability and crisis. Financial advisors generally recommend saving at least 20% of your income, but even getting from 4% to 10% is transformational over a decade. Here's a simple exercise. Take your current monthly take-home pay and multiply it by 0.10. That's your 10% savings target. Now look at your last 30 days of spending and find one category, just one, where you could trim without dramatically affecting your quality of life. Subscriptions you forgot about, dining out that crept up, delivery fees, impulse buys that felt urgent in the moment and forgettable a week later. Most people, when they actually look, find $150 to $300 per month they can redirect without feeling deprived. The key is automation. Every dollar you have to actively choose to save is a dollar your brain will find a reason to spend. Remove the choice, set the transfer, let the habit run in the background while you live your life. And store your savings in a high-yield account that's earning real interest, not a standard savings account that's barely keeping up with inflation. Investing, where your money gets a job. Here's the shift that changes everything. Saving keeps your money safe. Investing puts your money to work. The S&P 500, the index of 500 of the largest publicly traded companies in the United States, has delivered an average annual return of approximately 10.33% since 1957, according to historical data. Let's run that math. If you invest $300 per month starting at age 25 and earn a 10% average annual return, you would have roughly $1.9 million by age 65. If you wait until 35 to start investing the same amount, you end up with around $680,000. Same contribution, same return. A decade of delay costs you over $1.2 million. That gap is not mysterious. It's compound interest. Your money earns returns. Those returns earn returns. Over decades, that snowball becomes something genuinely hard to believe until you see it in your own account. The question is, how do you actually invest? Step 1. If your employer offers a 401k with a matching contribution, that's the first place your investment dollars should go. A common match is 50% of your contributions up to 6% of your salary. That's an immediate 50% return on your money before the market does anything. If you're not contributing at least enough to get the full match, you're leaving part of your compensation on the table. For 2026, the IRS allows you to contribute up to $24,500 to a 401k. Most people can't max that out right away, but get the match first, then grow from there. Step 2. Consider a Roth IRA. For 2026, you can contribute up to $7,500 per year if you're under 50. The money you put in has already been taxed, meaning your withdrawals in retirement are completely tax-free, including all the growth. For younger earners who are currently in a lower tax bracket, a Roth IRA is often one of the most powerful tools available. Single filers can contribute the full amount if their income is below $153,000. Now, what do you actually invest in? For most people, low-cost index funds are the answer. An index fund is essentially a basket of hundreds or thousands of stocks tracking a broad market index. When you buy a total market or S&P 500 index fund, you own a tiny piece of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and hundreds more, all at once with minimal fees. Warren Buffett, the most celebrated investor of the modern era, has said publicly that a low-cost S&P 500 index fund is the best investment most people can make. That's not a beginner's consolation prize. That's a genuine recommendation from someone who has spent decades studying what actually works. Keep fees low. A fund with a 1% annual expense ratio will cost you tens of thousands of dollars over a lifetime compared to one charging 0.03%. The numbers look small. The long-term effect is enormous. Invest consistently. Market timing doesn't work for regular investors. A JP Morgan study found that the average investor earned just 2.9% annually, far below the market's average, largely because people sell when the market drops and buy when it climbs back up. The solution is simple. Automate your contributions, ignore the short-term noise, and stay invested. Wealth building is the long game. Here's the thing about wealth. It's not a salary, it's a direction. Wealth is built by consistently spending less than you earn, investing the difference, and letting time do the heavy lifting. Every month you do that, your net worth, the difference between what you own and what you owe, grows. Track it. Most people have no idea what their net worth is. Download a simple spreadsheet or use a free app. Add up your assets, savings, retirement accounts, any property, subtract your debts, loans, credit cards, any balances you owe. What's left is your net worth. When you watch it grow month after month, you start making different decisions because you're no longer just managing cash flow, you're building something. Now, as your foundation solidifies, income diversification becomes the next lever. A second income stream doesn't have to mean a second job. It could be freelance work in your field, monetizing a skill, renting out a room, building a small online business. The goal is to reduce your dependence on any single source of income, because income sources are never as secure as they feel. Real estate is another avenue worth understanding, though it comes with real complexity. A primary home can build equity over time. Rental properties can generate passive income, but they also come with maintenance costs, vacancies, problem tenants, and property taxes. Real estate rewards those who go in with their eyes open, not those chasing a shortcut. The behavioral side of wealth building is the part that trips most people up. Financial knowledge isn't the hard part. Behavior is the hard part. Staying invested when the market drops, not inflating your lifestyle every time your income rises, saying no to debt that feels manageable in the moment but compounds into a burden over years. The financial term for this is lifestyle creep. As earnings grow, so do expenses, slowly, subtly, until the paycheck is gone again. Protecting against lifestyle creep means deliberately keeping your fixed costs low even as your income grows. Every dollar of unnecessary fixed expense you avoid is a dollar that can work for you instead of against you. The people who build wealth quietly are rarely the ones with the highest incomes. They're the ones who understood the rules of the game early, played consistently, and didn't stop. The roadmap forward. We've covered a lot of ground. Let's pull it together. Start with a budget that reflects where your money actually goes, not where you think it goes. Find the gap between what comes in and what goes out, and widen it. Build your emergency fund to at least $1,000 as a first milestone, then stretch towards 3 to 6 months of expenses. Keep it in a high-yield savings account where it earns real interest. Attack high-interest debt with focus and intensity. Use the avalanche or snowball method, but pick one and execute it. Every dollar freed from interest payments is a dollar available for building wealth. Automate your savings the moment your paycheck arrives. Pay yourself first, every time. Invest early, invest consistently, and keep costs low. Start with your employer's 401k match. Add a Roth IRA if you're eligible. Use low-cost index funds. Stay invested through the volatility because the volatility is the price of admission for the long-term returns. And track your net worth. Watch it grow. Let the number motivate the behavior. Here's what I want to leave you with. You don't have to fix everything at once. The person who picks one thing from this video, just one, and actually does it this week is miles ahead of someone who watched 10 videos and moved nothing. Start wherever you are. Your income is not the problem. Your starting point is not the problem. The only variable that matters is whether you take the first step today or keep waiting for a better moment that never quite arrives. If this video helped you, subscribe to the channel. Every video on this channel is built for where you actually are, not where the finance industry assumes you should be. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next one.